So, how many of you got some fight left in you? Wow, that was overwhelming. No, how many of you have got some fight left in you? So let me hear your fight song. Okay, good. So what is that? It's a big question. So what is that? What is that thing inside of you that when I say, do you have fight left in you, you instantly know you do? Did anybody not know that they did? Anybody feel like they have no more fight left in them? You feel like you have no more fight? Come down here. No, I'm kidding. Come down. I'll show you fight. No. So most of us then feel when we hear that question, do I have fight left in me? The answer is yes. Something bubbles up, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, I've got fight left in me. Yeah. And let's face it, I am predominantly Irish. And the Irish are called the Fighting Irish. Anybody ever hear that expression? I grew up in Philadelphia. We were the Fighting Irish. So we had a lot in us to fight. All those potato wars. So when I ask you that question, there is something that bubbles up. What does it mean when I say I've got something in me? What does it mean when I say I've got this feeling, this emotion? What does it feel when I say I've got this energy that I want to do something with? There's something going on. Do you all feel that at times? Has anyone never felt that in their life? I doubt it. You really do. You have to have felt it, even if it was way back when. So I want to start with the beginning lyric, which is like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion. Now just think about that for a minute. Like a small boat on an ocean, sending big waves into motion. So I'm going to ask you another question today, which is, are you aware of your impact in this world? Are you aware of how powerful your presence is in the world? Just like a small boat on an ocean, when it makes a ripple, it just keeps going and growing and goes out there. You don't see from that boat where it's going or what it's creating or where it's landing or what it's doing in the world. You don't know. But I'm here to tell you, we all have a major impact in this world. And that one of the lyrics, too, is that how one word can open a heart. One word can also close a heart. Your words are powerful because your words are coming from your thoughts, and your thoughts are coming from your beliefs, and your beliefs are coming from a mind that has either accepted or rejected the ideas that you've been presented your whole life. And one of those big ideas for me was when the idea came along of, what is God? Who is God? And who am I in relationship to that? Going through this world and going through this idea of religion versus spirituality, church versus non-church. You know, there's so many discussions going on in the world of what's going on in terms of what are we going to do with this thing called God. So many people don't even want to hear the word God, because they hear it and they're brings back to mind that God that they grew up with that was vengeful and very unpredictable. And then there are other people that are trying to change the idea of God to something that is sustainable, that is understandable, that is loving. And then there's us, far to the left, who are basically saying, I am God. You are God. All of us on this planet are God. That's what God is. It's this energy. Now, if God is this energy, then every single person that represents this God, this energy, is making ripples. So it's so important to know what you are doing with your mind. What waves are you creating in your life? Because you are. Even if you think you're not. I had somebody say to me the other day, they said, I just feel like I'm in a state where nothing is happening. I said, that's virtually impossible. You can stand perfectly still and something is happening because you're alive. Because your energy is still going out. You cannot stop it. Something is going on. Your mind is doing something. Even if it's saying nothing's happening. What are you doing? You're creating a stagnation where there never could be one. You've created that. Oh my God, how brilliant of you to create that stagnation in your life when all life is ever wanting to do is keep moving through you as you. So that's the first part of that song. Now, the song is called Fight Song. So the second thing is, when I say to you still have fight left in you, I have to ask you, it's good that you say yes, because that's the energy, but now I have to ask you, who are you fighting? What do you fight? How many of you, oh, thank you, Karen. How many of you feel like life sometimes feels like a fight? Raise your hand if you think sometimes life feels like a fight. Okay. So if we're going to be involved in a fight, then the fight also has something to do with who am I fighting, what person, what place, what situation, what condition, where do I find myself in a fight? And the word fight means a violent confrontation or struggle. When I pulled that definition up, I was like, a violent confrontation. How many of you find your lives to be violent in the way you confront life? I don't, bless you, I don't experience life that way. I am not in the midst of a violent confrontation, and yet, or a struggle. But I am in the mindset of understanding that fight can also be a very powerful thing. When she stood here and said, this is my fight song, my I'm all right song, right? I'm my power, right here, I'm fighting for my power. So, how many of you understand spiritual mind treatment? Raise your hand if you understand spiritual. Raise your hand if you know nothing about spiritual mind treatment, or if you just don't understand it that well. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, one of the things I teach to my practitioners is that a spiritual mind treatment is your willingness to fight for what you know. Your willingness in your mind to fight for what you know, because there's a lot of what you don't want to know coming your way. So as a practitioner, as someone who uses mental science, when the world comes along and tells me, this is a very difficult time, this is a challenging time in the world, there's not a lot of money, you're really going to have to buckle those belts? Tighten those belts. Unbuckle them too. Tighten those belts and really get clear on money so that you don't run out. Okay, so that's what's coming at me. My job is to fight that and say, no, all there is prosperity. Life is prosperity. I am opulent. My finances are secure. Nothing changes that. You don't change that. The government doesn't change that. The world doesn't change that. So that's the fight that we talk about in spiritual mind treatment. I am willing to fight my mind, in my mind, for what I know to be the truth. And there are 5 steps of treatment. The first step is to recognize who I am, to recognize that all there is God. And the second step is, and that's what I am. So it's all there is God, and that's what I am. And then I lay my claim. Here's what I know. I know that my life is full of opportunity and prosperity. Everybody say that. Clearly, I didn't say do it together. So, I know that my life is full of prosperity, right? So if I say that, what comes after that may be, really? Have you looked at your checkbook? If anybody has a checkbook anymore. Have you looked in QuickBooks? Okay, so that's the fight. Your willingness to know your mind so clearly, or you actors, you go to an audition and you step into that room and there are 50 other actors, all wanting the same part. I know growing up as an actor, I started out very cocky. I just believed that when I showed up, you should all go home. I really did, but that's a great mindset to have, isn't it? Provided it doesn't come from an arrogance, which it might have. But that arrogance came from a place of understanding. I actually believed that if I showed up, the game, it was over. It was over. And you know what happened? What do you think happened? It was over for all of them. Most of the time, pretty much all the time, I got what I wanted until one day, someone didn't cast me. Some idiot did not cast me. And when that happened, I started to let that in. And I wasn't fighting back because I didn't know to fight back. It just crept in. And when it creeps in, it's like, oh, there's a possibility that this isn't mine. So the next time I step into a room, I step in with the possibility that it isn't mine. I've just cut my chances 50%. And then I don't get the next one. Oh my God. Now I realize, oh, I am one of 50. Now I've cut my chances down to 1% in a room of 50. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Now, I'm not saying that I should walk into every room and get the job, because now I understand I should walk into, and Glenn Morshower is here, he teaches this in his beautiful workshop, The Extra Mile. I should walk into a room and say, here's what I have to offer. If you want it, great. If you don't, no problem. What a different mindset to know that. But you know what that came from? I might have started with arrogance. I ended up with spiritual clarity. And that's what we are here to talk about today. The fearlessness of stepping into the fight of understanding that I am willing to know only what I know. I am God. And the rest of it just falls away. And whatever happens, happens for my highest good. That's the fight. That's the fight song. That's what I'm willing to entertain in terms of fight. So the title of my talk today is Give Up the Fight. Give up the fight. Now, up is UP with periods, so it stands for unlimited potential. Give your mind over to stepping into a place where you are the unlimited potential of the universe, and you are willing to fight for knowing that and only that. So when I say give up the fight, I mean just give up all that unnecessary trying to prove myself and step into knowing myself. And the only fight that comes into play here is fighting anything that comes along to the contrary. Do y'all get that? Yeah. And the rest of you? I mean, that's what we do as religious scientists. That's what we do as metaphysicians. That's what we do as God. And it actually gets easier and easier and easier and easier. You know why? Because the more you know who you are, the more you recognize that you are a small boat in an ocean, and that you are not the boat or the person in the boat. You are the ocean, as Rumi says. You are not the wave in the ocean. You are the whole ocean in the wave. And your presence on this planet, your presence at this time of life. I was watching CNN this morning, and they were talking about, would it be possible to clone dinosaurs and bring them back? My first thought was, why? Do you want to share the streets with the dinosaurs? I don't. I mean, really, do we want to live Jurassic Park? And she said, thank God. She said, actually, that's really never going to happen because they were millions and millions of years ago, and we don't have any DNA from that time because then it got very hot, and all of them were gone. The DNA is gone. She said, but we have the DNA from a woolly mammoth. And we can take the Asian elephant and eventually turn the Asian elephant into a strain of woolly mammoths. And I thought to myself, why? I did. And I really had this whole idea of, if I know myself to be who I am, why do I want to go back? And that's really the whole idea of fearlessness. You know, this week, and many of you probably saw it, someone had posted the quintet from West Side Story. That took about 25 minutes for those of you who were paying attention to how quickly I mentioned Broadway. But it did come up this week, and it was on there. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I had a moment watching it. I was in the desert, in Palm Desert, and I pulled it up and I watched it, and I was mesmerized by me. I was mesmerized by that me. And my son just kept looking at it, and my daughter, they were looking at it going, oh my God, you were so young. How many of you still feel like you're still that same person? Don't you? I still feel like I even feel I look like that, delusional or not. But, so I'm watching it, and there was a part of me, and I gotta be honest, there was a part of me that was like a little pained. I was like, oh, if only I could go back there with what I know now. I would stop being such a pain in everybody's neck. Because I was a fighter. And that's the thing. You got to ask yourself, am I fighting because I don't know who I am? Or am I fighting because I do know who I am? They're two very different things. I think much of the fighting we do in life comes because we don't know who we are and we're trying to prove it somehow. I'm going to prove to you that I can do this, that I am the best. No, you are already the best. And you can do this if it's for the greatest good of the universe and yourself. If not, I loved what John said about all the computers, hire someone who knows how to do it. Why waste the time doing what really isn't in your interest to do? So I'm going to ask you today to really ask yourself where you see fight in your life. Are you fighting to prove who you are, or are you fighting, as I'm suggesting, because you know who you are and you are refusing to let anyone or anything tell you differently? Right? Thank you, Suzanne Wong. That's really the question that we must face. And we have to be willing to really step into this fight. We have to be willing to really step into this mind and say, here I am. I know who I am. There's a line in it that says, I may only have one match, meaning one fight in me, but I can make an explosion. Do you know what an explosion you can make in this universe? Do you know what we are capable of doing? There's a beautiful woman here today named Susie Jerry, who I did my very first professional show with in Brigadoon, second Broadway reference. And I remember being in Denver doing my very first professional show like that. And this girl came out to do the dance that she was going to do, that she played what was the name of that character? Maggie. She was the girl that did the funeral dance, the Agnes de Mille funeral dance. And she came out and danced, and I know you guys remember this. She came out and danced, and I just was mesmerized. I was like, whose body does that? Whose legs do this in that kind of a swoopy dress? I was like, just amazing. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to do that. Because I was only 20, and I really didn't have much experience or much training. But I saw it, I recognized it, as in me, and that was 25 years later, I was on Broadway dancing like that without the dress. You have such an impact, every single one of you, just like Susie had on me. You have such an impact on everything around you, and everything around you has such an impact on you if you are willing to pay attention to what is impacting your mind. And if you're willing to stay in the good fight of stepping into who I am and fighting and pushing away anything that tells me of the opposite. So as you leave here today, I want you to remember who you are in such a powerful way that when you step out of these doors, you know your waves are going far and wide. And you have no idea who is watching you, who is hearing you. You have no idea who is learning from you. We are such powerful beings, and we are all connected to one being. In that oneness, everything is possible. So give up the fight. Step into your unlimited potential, and be willing to say no to anyone, anything, any condition that does not resonate with the truth of who you are. And that is just 3 very simple words. I am God, and nothing less. Namaste.